Yeah, making a video response, sort of by force. I mean, he sent me a PM, unseen, whatever, puke-differy. He's just, you're just like, big threat, you know, hey, you better respond to this video. I screenshot this PM. I'm going to prove you're wrong about something, blah, 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 blah. So, whatever. Now I had to put up with an ad, of course. Ugh.
Actually, a quick video
Whatever.
that I want to make. So Edible Napalm's responded to in the process of responding to Gary's new 90-minute video, responding to Napalm's previous video. Now, I'm going to let Matt take most of this, but there's a few points I want to bring up that just kind of make me laugh. Firstly,
let's go.
Gary talks about how the Bill of Rights is apparently made to prevent things like discriminatory taxes on excise stuff. Not in there. He also...
That's not what I said. What I said was the Bill of Rights is effectively a document to suppress majority power. It's to stop the majority from going too far. So it sets up these limits that basically establish things the majority can't fuck with unless it has a 3/4 vote. But whatever.
Starts talking about Thomas Jefferson, he starts talking about the Constitution, which is funny because Thomas Jefferson was opposed to the Constitution as an anti-federalist. And then he's like, Thomas Jefferson wouldn't have let you screw with minorities. So basically, apparently, Gary thinks the person he should uphold is like a fucking...
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson was big on liberty, okay? That's a fact, okay? The whole idea of, you know, one man's liberty ends where another man's begins kind of thing. So yeah, Jefferson was a whore for liberty. Don't suppress liberty unless you really, 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 really have to. Duh. Duh. Duh.
Beacon and icon of, like, minority rights is a dude who owned and raped his slaves.
Well, he, you know, proved the rape part, okay? He might have loved one of them, but let's not call it rape. You know, took her to France and such. I mean, she didn't have it that bad. Really, and a lot of people probably would like to be raped by Jefferson, you know, come on, man. Damn, you know. Anyway, regardless, I think it's a bogus claim. So you're gonna preface an argument by calling Thomas Jefferson a rapist. Yeah, I don't think that's exactly rational. I don't think it exactly lends credibility to anything you're going to say. I don't think so.
Good job, Gary. Good fucking job. That being said, there are a few other things I want to point out that made me kind of giggle.
Whatever.
Gary claimed...
It's very inspecific so far. You're going to get to like an extra quote
that the government used to apparently regulate the length of commercials in television, and this is now why there's a billion, gajillion more commercials now, which is really funny because, quote, no federal agency regulates the amount of commercial time on television. Until 1982, the major networks adhered to a voluntary code of the National Association of Broadcasters that limited commercials to 9.5 minutes per hour in prime time. But since that code was dropped, the number of commercials...
Yeah, right. Okay, voluntary coercion, right? I mean, you know, I think, you know, I haven't read the 1973 whatever act, but I mean, the obvious implication is whether they did it because they knew they had to do it because it was going to get regulated if they didn't do it, or they did it voluntarily, as you say. Do you think they really would just voluntarily do something like that? Yeah, I don't think so. They voluntarily did it because they had a dildo up their ass plugged into the FCC. But anyway, whatever.
On primetime TV has crept steadily higher. So as a voluntary, it was a voluntary agreement that the National Association of Broadcasters had and then dropped. Now, just in case you don't know, like, the National Association of Broadcasters is basically like a lobby and like a union. So it's not a government agency, and they voluntarily agreed to some standard, which they...
Well, look, I don't need to argue this stuff, okay? The fact that the government regulated television is a fact. and they had to broadcast in the public interest. They were required to put on public service programming, to have public service commercials, to do other kinds of things. If you watch TV, like before 7 o'clock in the morning, you'd see like the 4-H show and the different kinds of little public interesty kind of shows. All right, and so that's just a fact, shithead. And they regulated also the kind of like content, the dirtier stuff had to be at night and all that kind of stuff. You couldn't put dirty programming on during the middle of the day. You had to put it on night. Whatever.
Then dropped during the 80s. So it's not Reagan's fault. Yeah, Reagan sucked, but if you're going to attack Reagan, attack him for like shit he actually did, not shit like other people did, and you just want to go after Reagan. You also claim that the...
Yeah, I want to go after Reagan because, yes, he did deregulate television. But what do you want? What, you want to argue this inane crap, right? The point, you're saying the government doesn't have the ability to regulate. It does have the ability to regulate. The Supreme Court's endorsed its ability to regulate. That argument, in my opinion, is fucking over.
Supreme Court basically forced public broadcasting to occur. Public access channels, or PEG channels, they're usually more properly known. Which stands for public access, education, and government, I think. That's actually false, because the FCC tried to do this in the 70s, and Supreme Court actually found it unconstitutional in FCC versus Midwest Video Corp, which led to, I can actually quote from the syllabus if you want to have it pulled up.
Oh, what? So what? You wanted me to prove you wrong again? Is it what? We're going to have to play what? Let's look it up on the internet. You're telling me the Supreme Court in later decisions didn't fully and completely embrace public access TV in the sense that now that it existed, it had to be regulated. It protected free speech rights, essentially. There's many cases that came before the Supreme Court over what you're allowed to say on television and in public access channel. And the court basically said it has to be the same rules there are everywhere else, and that this idea of putting stuff on late at night is probably a good idea, and they endorsed that. And those were the restrictions, but you couldn't discriminate in how people gained access to public access. The access had to be non-discriminatory, which means if you had too many people requesting access, then you had to have a lottery or some other system that was fair. Duh.
C. In light of the hesitancy with which Congress has approached the access issue in the broadcast area, and in view of its outright rejection of a broad right of public access on a common carrier basis, this court is constrained to hold that the FCC exceeded the limits of its authority in promulgating its access rules. The FCC may not regulate cable systems as common carriers, just as it may not impose such obligations on television broadcasters. Authority to compel cable operators to provide common carriage public-originated transmissions must come specifically from Congress. So then in 1984, I believe, Congress passed a law which in part basically said that...
it basically authorized the FCC to regulate television, okay? But the regulation, again, was going to be in the FCC's hands in terms of enforcing the regulation. So the Congress just basically told the Supreme Court, you're full of fucking goddamn shit, so pay attention. The FCC can regulate, and the Congress just basically vetoed the fucking Supreme Court. Duh.
May require cable companies to carry public access channels. Now, that requirement, again, it will, local areas aren't beholden to do this. So many have opted out, which has actually caused, some more people to complain about this, and why they want to pass a law that would require it everywhere in the country. So I don't really know why you're saying it's the Supreme Court that forced this, and fucking Reagan deregulated it and made it all go away. Reagan didn't have anything to do with this. If anything, at least during his presidency, they passed a law which at least allowed for this to happen, instead of, the FCC getting struck down.
Yeah, probably over Reagan's willingness to veto it. Again, but this isn't the point, is it? Yes, the point is that if you don't choose to have educational programming, okay, yes, communities can opt out. But the only reason why they would opt out, right, is because they want to avoid the accountability that might come with public access TV. So, right, any community who would opt out would look kind of bad, wouldn't they? Yeah, they would.
When they try to do it. So that being said, there's also a few other claims. I think it's just amusing to kind of point out. You talk about like there's no social cost of cigarettes and all this other stuff, which kind of echoes your claim that you previously made that secondhand smoke doesn't cause cancer, according to you, which is just laughable. And when I pointed out how wrong,
well, it doesn't even matter anyway, right? Secondhand smoke has been irrelevant for, what, 10 years? I mean, because they've regulated the fuck out of where people can smoke cigarettes now, right? So you don't have smoke-filled restaurants, you don't have smoke-filled bars, you don't have any of these smoke-filled areas anymore. So it's an irrelevant point anyway. Even if you could prove the existence of any of it, which you cannot.
They just start accusing like, the government's just lying about it, sort of crap. It's basically just kind of make up stuff as per usual. You don't really know what you're talking about.
Right. Okay. Well, you go ahead and explain to me then how the exposure of the average person walking down the street in a city like LA or New York, they must have a comparable risk to a secondhand smoke risk, right? Because the number of carcinogens they're breathing in is much higher than secondhand smoke. So you explain to me why we aren't forcing all those cities to clean their air, because they're obviously killing people in just horrendous numbers. Correct? No, it isn't correct.
Now instead of 800% tax on cigarettes, it's 1,000% tax on cigarettes. Like I did before, I'm going to link to what R.J. Reynolds, a tobacco company, has to say about taxation. You'll find your figures aren't actually correct. Not even.
Well, why would you go there? Why don't you just go find the production cost of cigarettes and go ask anybody who smokes cigarettes, and you'll know what the production cost of cigarettes were before taxation. Okay, you'll know how much they cost relative to other commodities. When I first started smoking, cigarettes were $3 a carton. Okay, and now they're $60 a carton. So go find some other commodity somewhere that has gone up that much. That's over 2,000%, right? I think 2,000%, $3 to $60.
Really in the same ballpark, as far as I can tell. I just don't understand, like, how wrong you usually are on everything, and how you can just keep repeating claims that you've already know to be wrong. Like you claim. I
mean, really, do I have to go do this? Do I actually have to go out there and prove it to you that the production cost of a pack of cigarettes is like 25 fucking cents? And that even if you projected the company making a double the profit of production for selling the cigarettes, that you're still at, what, 75 cents? So you still have to justify, like I said, in New York, a pack of cigarettes is $10. So it's over 1,000%. It's a 1,200% tax fee.
At some point in the very, very, very.
And just to be understand too, R.J. Reynolds made the deal with the fucking government, okay, on the fucking not getting sued thing. So they have their own self-interest that they were playing with, right? They got out of being liable for cancer deaths due to cigarettes. By paying the government the money, okay, charging the cigarette smokers. The cigarette smokers paid the money, they gave the money to the government. So they're part of the fucking racket.
First video I made towards I pointed out how you said that you didn't want to pay for kids to have education and healthcare, and you called this Sharia. And you say it's unfair and only people who have kids should have to pay for it, etc., etc., etc. And in this video, you basically like, no, I never.
Yeah, well, why? Yeah, no, I stand by that. But how does that equate to me not caring about kids or think kids shouldn't be educated? No, I think kids should be educated, and I think parents should be forced to pay for it. That's right. If you choose to have kids, you should pay for it. It's your pet. Why should I pay you for your pet? Why should I subsidize your pet ownership? Okay, that's your choice. You think having kids is a recreational activity? You want to do that recreational activity? That's your business. I have an obligation to pay you for that. I mean, if you decide to have sex in some kind of perverse way that ended up getting your eyes poked out, should I pay to fix your eyes? No. Shit. I mean, if you make a mess, you pay for it. Why should somebody else have to clean up your mess? So let's see what he used here for the link to the price of cigarettes. I don't see the obvious link. Well, anyway.
Said we shouldn't pay for this stuff. Well, yeah, in effect, saying that only people who have kids should have to pay for a public education and healthcare for children. That is essentially saying we shouldn't have it. Because here's something I should say, Gary.
Why is it saying essentially we shouldn't have it? No, it's saying that people should understand what it costs. If they're going to go do something, they should pay for their liberty, right? That's another Jefferson concept. If your liberty has a social expense, you should pay for the social expense. What's so outrageous about that? It's not something you have to do, it's something you choose to do. And if you choose to do it, why should somebody else subsidize it? That's stupid.
Gary, you've claimed to have been on disabilities before. So if a Republican came out and said only people who use disabilities should have to pay taxes for disabilities, or only people who are on food stamps should have to pay for tax for food stamps, you'd fucking flip a shit.
It's called, Social Security, it's called an insurance, and that's what it is, it's insurance. Okay, so go look up the word insurance. All right, that's what it is. It's insurance against disability. Now, you want to say that Social Security shouldn't cover disability, then yeah, we should be able to buy disability insurance on the private market then, or I think we should have a public provider for it. But yeah, obviously it makes sense to have disability insurance. And that might be another thing I would obligate parents to pay for, right? If they're going to have kids, then they ought to be insured against disability. Because it's very expensive, right? Right. But, what they really should do is let people have a right to die, and then they wouldn't have to pay for all those disabled people, because a lot of them would probably say, I'd rather be dead than disabled anyway.
And say that, no, you basically just want to get rid of the program, because they would be saying they want to get rid of the program. I'm sorry, Gary, we live in a democracy. People pay for shit they don't use. I never used public education. My parents had to pay taxes on it.
Yeah, but again, why are you, but you're endorsing it and I'm not, right? I'm saying there's no need for that. There's no need to have a system. My argument is when you're talking about taxation, all right, that it should be based on the ability to pay. Because we know that especially progressive taxation is logical. Because we know that most of the primary expenses of life, okay, those are ones that all people are going to have to pay, and to tax that stuff would be insane. And that obviously if you taxed income that was paying for those necessities, that would be very detrimental to the lower income people versus the higher income people. But yeah, I fundamentally don't think there's any right to inheritance, especially in a system where your life sort of depends on this competition, this economic competition. And inheritance is just a cheat. We don't have that kind of cheat in any other sport, do we? Where we let baseball players inherit their seat. They can get a seat at the bench and be a New York Yankee because daddy was a Yankee. We don't let people inherit driver's licenses. Yeah, so why should we let them inherit ownership of the economy? That's kind of silly. So yeah, that's where I would, if I was going to control taxation, that's where I would have the taxes first. First, I'd stop the giveaway. And you could probably finance everything with the money just from stopping the giveaways. The free riders.
Pay taxes on it. Doesn't matter if you don't use the service. I'm probably never going to need, Medicaid or TANF or food stamps, but I'll still pay taxes into those programs, and I'm happy to do so, Gary. Because I live in a democracy and I actually care about what happens to my fellow citizen. Maybe you should.
Yeah, well, again, I don't see any reason to subsidize bad behavior. Okay, so if you want to say would I have some kind of system to encourage people, and an insurance program, yeah, I'd have insurance for disability. But I wouldn't have insurance for I'm having 5 kids and I don't have a job. I wouldn't have insurance for that. I'd have orphanages for that.
Right, sometime. You also said that you can't, you don't say it in this video, but in one of your videos you said that you can't have taxes on a federal and a state level for stuff. It's just you don't know what you're talking about, Gary, and I'm not an expert.
I said you can't have taxes on it. Yeah, that was really so coherent. Oh, yeah, I'm stunned. I'm just totally wiped out. You caught me on that one.
the taxation. But the things you say are clearly fucking wrong.
Yeah, like you just pointed out so brilliantly and clearly and coherently. Not. Oh, fuck.
Just stop. Because, smokers may be a statistical minority, but they're not a protected class of people.
Oh, here we go again, this protected class of people crap. It has nothing to do with being a protected class, okay? The Supreme Court, okay, if I could ever get to the Supreme Court, all I have to do is recite their own words to them, okay? You may have a tax that is not perfectly equal, not perfect equity, okay? But you must treat similarly situated similarly. That's what the courts have said, okay? And there's lots of similarly situated vices that are not taxed similarly to cigarettes. And until they change that fact, it's a violation of the law, period. It's a violation of the law, period. It's an inequitable, unreasonable tax, okay? It is in fact just cruel exploitation tax. It is nothing more. If it wasn't a minority vice, it would not be taxed. That's a fact. So this is all just bullshit. It's clearly outside the boundaries of constitutionally established law. It is not similarly taxed. It's dissimilarly taxed, and it's dissimilarly taxed for one reason, and that's because cigarette smokers have no political clout. They require neither the Democrats or the Republicans to protect their rights, and therefore they have no rights. Period.
Some groups you can discriminate against legally. There are certain...
Not with the tax code you can't, okay? And that's the point. You can't use the tax code this way. That's why prohibition didn't happen through a taxation. It happened through a constitutional amendment, which requires a 2/3 vote in Congress where all they need was 51% to raise taxes. Okay, if the prohibitionists wanted it to do, if they existed today, yeah, they would do it this way, because now we have the new legal precedent, which is, even though the law says you can't do it, you can apparently do it. So you just raise a tax. You don't like a certain liberty, you don't like a certain behavior, just tax the fuck out of it. And it's totally against constitutional principle. It's not what the tax code is for, and it's just wrong as fucking wrong can goddamn be. It's un-American as you can goddamn get. You have no right to tax liberties beyond their social criminality, beyond their social burden. And to do anything more than that is to be a bigot.
Classes protected people, and some classes are more protected than others under the law. Smokers as a group...
Doesn't matter. Liberty is protected under the United States Constitution. The word liberty is in there. See? Pursuit of happiness and liberty and such. That's the whole point of the goddamn fucking thing.
Are a protected class. So, just go away.
Well, again, it doesn't have to be a protected class, okay? Just go look up the words. Similarly situated, taxed similarly. Those are the words in the Supreme Court decisions, okay? So it's not about being a protected class. It's about how you're supposed to use the tax code, and you're not supposed to use the tax code this way. Unless you can make a distinction between this vice and these other vices, which you cannot. There is nothing especially different about cigarettes than these other vices, and this is all just because of convenience, and it's just exploitation, and it's just grotesque discrimination, and you don't want to admit it, and that's all there is here. You just don't want to admit the simple truth. Alright, that's all it is. It's just exploitation of a minority that you people don't like. And period. Nothing else.
Just go away. You don't know what you're talking about, and you're gonna lose again, just like you always. You keep fucking talking like oh, you're some fucking legal expert, and all the government is the injustice system, all this stuff. Gary, Never won a court case. No.
Exactly, right. Well, doesn't that give you experience, though? When you go into a courtroom and a judge says something stupid, you say cruel and unusual punishment, and the judge says we can put people in jail. Well, that wouldn't make any sense, right? That's not answering my claim of cruel and unusual punishment, is it? Saying we can put people in jail doesn't really answer the accusation of cruel and unusual, does it? No, it doesn't. Then you go to an appeals court and you say, this didn't answer my case claim, and they say, we don't have to write a decision. He's right. We'll just say he's right. Yeah, we won't write a decision. So you go to an appeals court, you pay the money for a decision, and the appeals court doesn't write a decision. No decision. They don't write a decision. They don't write anything. They just say, no, it's okay. He did whatever he did. I don't care. That's all they say. We're not gonna answer a single claim in your claim. We're not going to answer a single point in your claim. We're just going to ignore that you even filed it. Right? And then you go to the Supreme Court, and of course they ignore it because they can ignore whatever the fuck they want. And so you say that's justice. I say that's a farce, and that's a nonsense, and it's crap, and it's shit, and I've demonstrated to be shit, and it's happened 4, 5, 6 times where, yeah, you file a claim, the judge ignores it, and this is the game you have to play. And then they claim immunity. And, then when they ignore it and you go to try to sue them, they claim, we're immune. We can violate your civil rights all the fuck we want. And that's the system you endorse because you suck. As I've pointed out before, you suck for a lot of reasons, but you sure as fuck suck for that one.
Never won a court case. Maybe.
I won an appeal in federal court as a pro se. That means I got a federal judge overruled. Pretty good.
All your years of being incredibly litigious, not winning a single case, maybe that should say something to you. Maybe.
Yeah, again, I won a federal appeal. I got a judge recused.
Maybe you should question the fact that you've always been wrong.
I won a federal appeal as a pro se and got a federal judge forcibly recused.
But then again, you're not even, it's like half the time you're not even, like you're so wrong you're not even answering the fucking question that someone asked you. It's like, someone goes up to you, it's like, what time is it? And you're just like, it's fucking purple, you fucking fuck. I mean, you just... Gary. You're silly. All I can say.
Yeah, really. Brilliant argument. Brilliant.
Silly.
Do I really have to bother with this? Do I? So this is what he took a screenshot of the PM email to me because I need to address this really important argument that he made, which was what? I'm silly. He was wrong about the fact that I never won a court case because I did win. I actually also won another, a motion hearing where, I basically embarrassed the fuck out of the judge and forced her to rewrite her decision because I did basically point out that she's just running right over the United States Constitution. But whatever, I'm not, I have, you want to just keep playing the game, play the game, asshole. But you're just so, to defend cigarette taxation at these obscene levels is just disgusting. And I can only wish that, yes, I hope something valuable to you, something that means something to you in the future gets abused by the same kind of lies and distortions and perversions and bigotry. You just really deserve nothing more than what you're offering, which is no principles. Okay, the fact is fundamental principles have been violated. The tax code is being used in ways it is explicitly stated it's not to be used. And it's clearly being done opportunistically and with clear exploitation in mind. Nothing else. It's just clearly exploitational. And you don't want to admit that because you're just a petty weasel. And that you just fucking suck. So anyway, he has made us another video, but I'm not doing that now. I'll do it later. Ugh. Disgusting.